There's a hidden war raging inside the so-called nice guy. It's not the war between good and evil. It's the war between the self that wants to be liked and the self that wants to be free. Every man who calls himself nice needs to ask, what is it costing you to be so pleasant? Because what you call kindness, Nietzsche calls a mask. And that mask has a price: the burial of your instincts, the betrayal of your will, and the quiet destruction of everything powerful within you. You weren't born weak. You were taught to be agreeable. You were rewarded for suppressing your truth. You learned to lower your voice, to soften your demands, to kill your desires slowly with words like respect, approval, and compromise. But here's what Nietzsche knew. A man who kills his instincts to be accepted becomes a slave, not a saint. He wrote, "Every elevation of the type man has hitherto been the work of an aristocratic society, and so it will always be." In other words, men do not rise by becoming more agreeable. They rise by embracing the harshness of reality, by facing the ugly truths that nice guys refuse to look at. Nice guys want to be liked by all, but Nietzsche teaches, to be great, you must be willing to be hated. You must walk away from the herd, not because you despise people, but because you refuse to lose yourself trying to belong. The nice guy is not truly kind. He's afraid. He's terrified of rejection, terrified of judgment, terrified of being alone with the full force of his inner voice. So he waters himself down to be digestible. He plays small to be invited in. He confuses politeness with power. But Nietzsche would ask you, what if your need to be liked is the very thing holding you back from becoming who you truly are? The man who seeks to avoid conflict becomes a playground for those who feed on power, because predators don't fear the polite, they hunt them. They don't respect your softness, they interpret it as submission. And here's the tragic irony. The nice guy wants peace but invites war. He wants connection but gets walked over. He wants love but ends up being used. Because nature does not reward niceness. It rewards strength. It rewards will. It rewards the man who, in Nietzsche's words, dares to create his own values, not live by the hand-me-down morals of a society designed to keep men soft, tamed, and predictable. So here's Nietzsche's first lesson to the nice guy. Stop pretending that being liked is your highest virtue. If you want to matter in this world, if you want to love and be loved without losing your soul, if you want to lead and build and leave something behind that can't be erased the moment people stop clapping for you, then you must begin the greatest project a man can ever undertake. You must kill the nice guy within you and become someone worth being. You've been taught that goodness is about selflessness, that virtue means turning the other cheek, pleasing others, sacrificing what you want so others can feel comfortable. But Nietzsche would rip that idea apart like a rotten curtain hiding the truth. He saw it clearly. The rules you were given were not made to free you. They were made to weaken you. You've been handed a morality built by the powerless to shame the powerful. They told you, don't speak too loudly, don't express your desires, don't lead, don't challenge, don't make anyone uncomfortable, be agreeable, be modest, be nice. But Nietzsche's eyes were sharper than most. He called this kind of morality what it really is, a slave revolt in values, a system invented by the weak to poison the strong with guilt. He wrote, "The noble type of man experiences itself as value-creating. It does not need approval. It judges that what is harmful to me is harmful in itself." Do you see the difference? The nice guy bends to the opinions of others. The higher man bends reality to his will. Nice guys wait to be chosen. Nietzschean men choose themselves. Nice guys hope their goodness will one day be recognized. But Nietzsche warns, the world doesn't care how good you are. It only responds to how powerful you are. And power, in Nietzsche's world, is not about domination. It's about self-mastery. It's about your capacity to shape your own values, live by your own standards, and stare into the abyss of loneliness without blinking. But the nice guy? He hides behind smiles, behind false humility, behind apologies for existing too boldly. He confuses cowardice for compassion. He thinks he's being moral, but in truth, he's being manipulated. Let me be clear. Nietzsche didn't hate kindness. He hated the performance of it. He hated fake humility used as a disguise for fear. He hated the castration of the human spirit in the name of being good. He asked, "What is good?" Everything that heightens the feeling of power in man. So ask yourself, does your niceness make you feel powerful? Or does it make you feel small? Do you say yes to people when you really want to say no? Do you avoid telling the truth to protect others' comfort while you rot in silence? Do you pretend to be happy just to avoid rocking the boat? That's not virtue. That's self-betrayal. And Nietzsche knew, betray yourself long enough, and the world will follow. They won't respect you. They won't admire you. They'll overlook you. Because a man who doesn't even protect his own values sends one message to the world: I am not worth listening to. And slowly, without even realizing it, the nice guy becomes invisible. So Nietzsche's second piece of advice is this: stop obeying values that were designed to keep you harmless. The world doesn't need more harmless men. It needs dangerous men who choose to be kind. There's something most men don't understand until it's too late. When you spend your life trying to be liked, you slowly forget who you are. You become a reflection of other people's expectations, a mirror, not a man. And Nietzsche saw this as one of the greatest sicknesses of the modern soul. He called it herd morality, a way of living where people are too afraid to stand alone, so they dissolve into the collective. They say what's safe. They believe what's popular. They act how others expect them to, not because they've thought it through, but because they're scared of what will happen if they don't. Nice guys are masters of herd morality. They don't speak their mind. They check the room first. They don't pursue what they want. They wait for permission. They don't walk with conviction. They tiptoe around feelings, terrified of stepping on anyone's toes. But Nietzsche didn't believe you could find truth or greatness in the herd. He believed you had to walk away from it, alone. He called this type of man the Übermensch, the one who dares to invent his own path, to break free from the sheep-like patterns of society and rise above the approval-seeking noise. He wrote, "You must be willing to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes?" The nice guy never burns. He avoids the fire. And because of that, he never transforms. He stays stuck in the safe zone, halfway between what he feels and what he says, half alive, half awake, always needing someone else to validate him. He doesn't offend anyone, but he doesn't inspire anyone either. He doesn't make enemies, but he doesn't command loyalty. He's predictable, pliable, replaceable. Because when you spend your whole life trying to be accepted by others, you slowly lose the parts of you that are truly original. Nietzsche's third warning to the nice guy is this: your soul is eroding every time you sacrifice authenticity for likability. You think people will love you for being agreeable, but what they're really drawn to, what stirs them, what wakes them up, is someone who is ruthlessly himself. Someone who speaks even when it's uncomfortable, who acts even when it's risky, who stands tall even when it means standing alone. You've been lied to. You were told that if you're good enough, kind enough, compliant enough, people will reward you. But Nietzsche would ask you, what if they never do? What if they just keep taking? What if they just keep overlooking you, while the bolder, louder, more unapologetic men take what they want from life? Will you still sit there, smiling politely? Or will you finally admit the truth? That your nice guy mask is just fear with a halo? That deep down, beneath the fake modesty and people-pleasing, there's a version of you that's tired of being ignored, a version of you that's ready to roar. The world doesn't need another man who disappears into politeness. It needs a man who dares to be real, even if it costs him everything. What separates the man who lives fully from the one who quietly fades into irrelevance? According to Nietzsche, it's rebellion, not against the world, but against the invisible chains that bind you from within. The nice guy doesn't rebel. He adapts. He blends in. He's the kind of man who apologizes for his dreams, who hides his ambition behind soft language, who asks for permission before taking a single step forward. And yet, Nietzsche warned, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. In other words, your true self will always be at odds with what society wants from you. Your will, your vision, your desire to live with fire. It threatens the system. So they tame you, and they do it with praise, They say, "You're such a good man, so patient, so understanding, so respectful." What they're really saying is, "You don't make us uncomfortable. You don't threaten us. You stay in your lane." But here's Nietzsche's fire. You were not born to stay in anyone's lane. You were born to create your own. He believed in the will to power, not as dominance over others, but as the inner force that drives a man to transcend who he was yesterday, to tear apart the chains of fear, doubt, shame, and societal conditioning, and become something new. But the nice guy fears transformation. He clings to what's familiar, even if it's slowly killing his spirit. He lives inside a cage with the door wide open, too afraid of the unknown to step through. Nietzsche would call this man a tragedy, not because he's evil, but because he refuses to evolve. He who has a why to live, Nietzsche wrote, can bear almost any how. But the nice guy doesn't have a why. He has a script, a recycled set of beliefs handed down to him by timid parents, teachers who told him not to stand out, and a culture obsessed with emotional safety. So he withers, not because he's weak, but because he's obedient. He's a man waiting for permission that will never come. And here's the truth. Nietzsche understood better than most. Your breakthrough will not come from more discipline, more humility, or more niceness. It will come from your rebellion. When you finally say, "Enough. I will no longer live by values that keep me small. I will no longer pretend to be someone I'm not. I will no longer dim my flame so others can feel warm in my presence." That's when it begins. Not with a shout, but with a decision. To stop asking for respect and start commanding it. To stop performing for love and start being the kind of man who radiates it. To stop bowing at the altar of approval and start building your own altar, where your soul, your truth, your raw, unfiltered existence is enough. Nietzsche doesn't want you to be evil. He wants you to be whole. And sometimes wholeness requires rage, not at the world, but at the version of you that chose comfort over becoming. So the fourth piece of Nietzsche's advice is simple but violent. You must rebel against the you they created to become the man you were born to be. There's a reason why women say they want a nice guy, but so often end up obsessed with the man who couldn't care less about being nice. It's not because they're evil, it's because they're wired to respond to power, not politeness, presence, not passivity. And Nietzsche understood that true power is not in aggression, but in a man who doesn't need anyone's approval to walk in his truth. The nice guy tries to win her over with comfort, but she's not looking for comfort. She's looking for a storm that can carry her beyond herself. She wants a man whose very presence disturbs the air, who walks into a room and doesn't ask for attention, but demands it just by being fully himself. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. That's what Nietzsche meant when he said, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." A nice guy wants to be seen as good, but a Nietzschean man wants to be seen as real, even if that means being misunderstood, even if it means being alone, because he knows that the deepest love, the rarest respect, and the fiercest loyalty only come to men who stand in their truth without apology. Look around. The world is filled with men who used to dream boldly but now whisper their lives away, because they thought being liked would protect them, that being agreeable would earn them loyalty, that playing safe would win them love. But Nietzsche calls those dreams illusions. He offers no comfort, only a challenge. Become who you are, not who your parents wanted you to be, not who your friends think you are, not who your girlfriend, wife, boss, pastor, or mentor imagines you to be. Who you are. Strip down every layer of performance. Remove every mask that was crafted to survive rejection. Silence the inner voice that asks, will they still like me if I speak my mind? Because here's the truth. If the price of love is abandoning yourself, it's not love. It's slavery. Nietzsche doesn't want you to be cruel. He wants you to be honest. Ferociously honest. Because the most dangerous man is not the one who attacks, but the one who no longer fears being seen for who he is. That man doesn't chase. That man doesn't beg. That man doesn't shrink in the presence of beauty or power or chaos. He becomes it. He becomes the chaos, the standard, the presence, the storm she never saw coming. And what happens when a man becomes that? He stops needing validation because he becomes the source of it. He stops begging for love because he becomes impossible to ignore. He stops asking, "What do they want from me?" and starts asking, "What do I demand from this life?" That's Nietzsche's final message to the nice guy. You were never born to please. You were born to become, not the man they taught you to be, but the man you would die to meet. And if you walk that path, if you burn the mask, endure the exile, and rise through the ashes of rejection, silence, and solitude, you won't just get respect. You won't just get love. You'll become unforgettable. If this spoke to something buried deep inside you, if this narration reminded you of the man you were before the world made you small, then don't keep it to yourself. Like the video. Share it with a brother who needs to hear this. Subscribe to the channel. And if you believe in this message, support the channel through the link in the description, because we're not here to create content. We're here to wake men up. And that mission begins with you.